Good evening, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty, and before we get into it today, there's going to be a little bit of the extra at the end of this one. I'm going to try my best to just crack on and get through the review in the 5 minutes I've got, but stick around if you want to. Something a bit extra. Today, though, it's Spirits of Vengeance. Spirits of Vengeance, Spirit Rider. I want to make sure I get that title right. Not Ghost Rider, not Sorceress Supreme, although technically both of those could be part of what's going on. And that leads me straight into the thing that kind of bugs me about this comic book. It won't take long. There's a lot I like about it. What bugs me about it is there's simply so much going on that led up to it. Not only do you have a background for a character that was introduced in a kind of small spin-off of Doctor Strange, which not many people are reading, certainly not enough people were buying it. That's why her first cover appearance, are now going for 7-8 times cover price. But all that what happened in the comic book that not enough people are reading, so we have to be told about it here. And we also find out that she was born 200 years ago, so that's a lot of history, even though she wasn't technically 200 years old. Throw in the fact they've also got a buttload of Johnny Blaze backstory to get through. Genuinely is just wordy as all hell, and I like a good thing to read. I mean, it's not just comic books I enjoy. I'll sit down with massive fantasy tomes or what have you, but the sheer amount of box out text on just those 2 pages, and this is just an example of what happens in it, it's just a tiny bit overwhelming, and frustratingly I can't think of much else they can do. Taboo seems to be a really good writer. He's got a knack for this kind of thing. I thoroughly enjoy the dialogue. There's 3 different characters who all have different modes of speaking, and it all comes across really effectively. But too many words. I know that seems weird, but it is. And what's frustrating is on this page, you also get to see how good the art is. Now, the thing is, because there's that much to get through, I don't think you could even do the whole show rather than tell kind of situation. I think even if you'd try to attempt that, you're still going to end up with a absolutely huge page count. And I think you're still going to end up with an awful lot of information, which, unless it's spelled out for the people who are actually picking up something like this for the first time, myself included, not a big Doctor Strange fan. Last thing a Doctor Strange I read, he lost his magic powers, hung out with Iron Man, and went to space, apparently. Who knows? But because of all that, it needs to be explained, and there's no easy way to do it. I'm not saying this is the best or the worst way, it's just not a way I enjoyed. But it does look good. Theres quite a few pages I can show you, how excellent the artwork is in it. But again, just all the text. My favourite bit, though, is just, I'm going to talk about colours here, the colouring, rather than just repeatedly what I'm doing is talk about colouring, is Geordie Belair. This is not, but that page is brilliant. Well, that panel, it's that same kind of like a one-note computer coloring, but they're using the setting and the scenery to inform that coloring, rather than just being bland because there's not really anything going on that's exciting, and the inking and the penciling doesn't give you enough to work with, so you throw shading in for the sake of it. It does it really effectively based on what's in there and tells a story that way. There's also a nice bit later on where you get the kind of flashback, I suppose, to what happened to the Spirit Rider before she became said Spirit Rider. And it involves Civil War era armed forces murdering her family. There's a shot of a couple of them, and I was trying to basically go and search through the internet and try and find some information about the uniforms of both Confederate and the United soldiers. And similar enough, I mean, yes, there's the greys and the blues, but again, they do the colouring, so what you basically see is the reds and the yellows reflecting or brightening their uniforms because they're burning stuff down. The hats, the forage caps, are just a little bit too similar as well for me to be 100% sure which one was which. So it's kind of nice that they didn't make any big point out of that. It is just US soldiers at the time period did terrible things, and it's like, yeah, okay, I'm down with that. That makes sense to me. Based on my wide and varied reading on the era, yeah, that just makes sense. The last thing that kind of put me off ever so slightly is I was expecting this to be a good jumping on point for extra stories on the character. Not only was it a fundamentally pain in the arse to read for jumping on point because there's so much backstory, it also kind of ends at a point where I have no idea if they're going to be able to if they're going to carry on with it or how they would. I mean, if they do what I think they're going to do, which is now set a Ghost Rider or Spirit Rider story in American Wild West, I'd read that. That does sound cool. But it feels like they're actually just going to leave her there and maybe worry about her down the line. She might turn up in some kind of flashback, or she'll turn up later on and say, "Oh, I've solved all my problems. Yay." Feels like just some odd choices made in terms of where you are placing this comic in the continuity of the Marvel Universe and even in the continuity of its own characters. Frustrating, like I say. This is a lot I liked about it. Anyway, that's all done and dusted. Review over. If that's what you came for today, cool. Enjoy the rest of your day. But I realized today, I don't know why I did it, but I checked my calendar, looked back at my account, and today is literally a year since I first started doing this channel. Before this, I did a podcast, which was kind of cool. I enjoyed doing it, but it was kind of harder to get that in front of people. Don't get me wrong, podcast apps are really easy, but most people, YouTube is just, it's everywhere. So I decided to do it, and I've had a really, really good time doing it. I love doing it, in fact. Comic books have been a part of my life since I was 11 years old, so that's 33 years, so 32 years of comic books. And in case you can't tell from the fact that I'm literally in a comic book store when I do these, I run a comic book store. It's brilliant. It's my dream job. I've worked in other comic book stores, and it's great, but owning your own is even better. And being in a comic book store, working in a comic book store has made the last 18 months a hell of a lot easier for me. And the friends I made through it made it a hell of a lot easier as well. Most of the people who watch this aren't my customers. They are people who found me on YouTube because I'm talking about a comic book they like. And I know, comparing the level of subscriptions I've got to the amount of views I get on my videos, most people who subscribe don't come back and watch all my videos. That's totally fine. I understand the hell out of that. There's a bunch of stuff I review. I don't think I'd give a damn about reading it later on down the line anyway. I certainly got on my way to watch some random northerner talk about it for 5 minutes. So, what I want to say is thank you to anyone who does watch this, anyone who stuck through the past couple of minutes of extra waffling, for actually just every once in a while clicking on and saying something, even if what you're saying is the comic book I'm reviewing is trash. It still entertains me. It still makes me glad I do this. And every single comment and watch and everything, just it cheers me up a little bit. And the last year has been pretty harsh, so thank you, everyone. And that is actually it for the week. Coming back on Tuesday, and at some point during next week, I'm probably going to do a bit of a rundown of all the titles that are coming in for Free Comic Book Day. If people are not aware, in the UK, we're not getting all these. It's supposed to be tomorrow, and we've still got a whole bunch haven't arrived yet. So I'm hoping once the majority of them arrive, I can actually do a quick run through about what's coming out. It won't be full reviews. It'll just be me telling people what's going on. Until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.